Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
Good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right is John Hancock.
Good morning.
On the left, Michael Kelley.
Hey there.
I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda this morning, in spite of St. Louis's reputation, Kansas City is now Missouri's leader in homicides. Could that help trigger a new gun ban? Hunter Biden indicted, accused of years of shameful crimes. Will it impact his father's possible impeachment? Donald Trump says that if he's elected president again, he will be a dictator, but just for a day. And our quote of the week, doublespeak from university presidents refusing to stand up for Jewish students and stand against anti-Semitism. Also, St. Louis's new top prosecutor says he will not be one and done, plus an apparent step back for Nikki Haley in News Nation's Republican presidential debate this past week. Did anyone else step up? But we begin now with St. Louis's new trigger law on gun control, inspired by Missouri's trigger law that banned abortion in 2022. Alderman Rasheen Aldridge pushed through a bill to immediately ban open carry of firearms in the city of St. Louis if state law ever changes to allow it. The mayor signed the bill this past week. St. Louis may have an ally in Kansas City now, which is on pace for more than 182 homicides this year. That would be a record there, and a much higher number than St. Louis this year, which is currently at 148. John, state lawmakers, including some Republicans in Jefferson City, tell me there may be some softening to allow the big cities in the state, like St. Louis and Kansas City, to enact some sort of gun restrictions. What do you think the chances are?
I'd be surprised if something like that passed in Jefferson City. Now, I do think it's possible, if there was enough money put together, that you could put a statewide initiative petition on the ballot that would allow for local sovereignty on gun policy. I could see something like that happening. I would be surprised if the General Assembly allowed the St. Louis and Kansas City to pass their own gun laws that are more strict than what we have in the state.
Could there be a deal struck maybe on local control of St. Louis Police Department, Michael, in exchange for a little lenience on gun legislation? Or would Democrats not go for that?
Yeah, I don't think I see those two issues getting conflated. First of all, kudos to Rasheen Aldridge. I think this is a great concept. It's exactly what the Republicans have done. They're going to be screaming, this is unconstitutional, this is unconstitutional. It's exactly what they did. I think it helps continue to put a spotlight on the gun problem that exists in the big cities. Guns are a very different problem in cities than they are in rural Missouri, and hopefully this will help wake up the Republicans. But there's an absolutism when it comes to guns inside the Republican Party, and common sense is not allowed to have any breath.
I'll tell you what I'd like to see, because I think the problem in St. Louis is we've done away now with licensing. Where when we first had the concealed carry thing passed, you had to have a license. And one of the problems you have in a place like the city of St. Louis is because the licensure requirement is gone, how are the police going to deal with illegal guns on the street? That I think is something that ought to be addressed.
Now remember, the city did pass an ordinance saying that to open carry in the city, you have to have concealed carry. That was sort of precursor of this. This would just ban open carry outright. You couldn't do it.
I'm all for it. I just don't think it's going to pass with this legislature.
St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore, who is credited with returning at least a semblance of law and order to the city of St. Louis, says he hopes to stick around a while.
To do the work that's necessary to have a positive impact on the community that I love, and to create a greater level of public safety for the entire region. It is for that reason that I stand before the citizens of St. Louis today and humbly announce that I will be seeking a full term as Circuit Attorney.
The Missouri governor appointed Gore to take over as the city's top prosecutor when Kim Gardner resigned. She was elected twice, but both terms were marked by extreme dysfunction in office, with a backlog of more than 4,000 cases building up, too few prosecutions, and violent suspects being released without ever standing trial. Now, Michael Gore's office is currently, it's routine. Every week there's a new announcement of someone else getting convicted of violent crimes, long prison terms being handed out. There were 3 or 4 just this past week. How big of a difference can one guy make?
light years. We had somebody who was doing nothing. We have somebody who's actually doing the job. I'm encouraged, excited, and thrilled that Gabe Gore is going to run for re-election. I think he'll win handily. I don't think he'll face opposition from the left, the progressive left, that is. I think he ought to be able to walk right into this. I'm hopeful, though, that voters don't forget that the progressive thought process got us into this mess, and we can't revert back to it.
Is that key? There will be not a progressive challenger?
Well, I hope that's right. I would be somewhat surprised if that happens. I would think that, you know, there's a nationwide organization that its whole mission is electing left-wing prosecutors that will not enforce the law. And they've got prosecutors all over the country, from New York to, I mean, they're everywhere. We had one in St. Louis. So that effort, I think, would concern me that could come.
And it's not an anomaly, right? Let's not forget that the organization had Kim Gardner on the front page of 60 Minutes saying this is the new way to prosecute.
Yeah.
We can't forget that this is a failed thought process.
Is this a wake-up call in America, or a sign that what might be coming in other major cities?
Well,
that
I
have gone this
hope, because
route?
Gabe Gore's done a really good job here, and I think it's important that he runs for re-election because he's recruited that office was empty. And
Well,
he's
that's a big
recruited
key, right?
a whole
It isn't
lot
one
of people.
guy. He's recruited a whole team of professional prosecutors
and
again.
so
who
they
left
now
him.
have the confidence that there's going to be some continuity in that office. That's very important.
And if we hope to see this seed change as it relates to progressives, that's not been the case in Chicago and other cities that have doubled down. So hopefully Gabe Gore will stand firm on his principles, and voters will remember that we've got common sense in the office now.
The past week brought fury from Missouri Senator Josh Hawley after Congress dropped compensation for victims of exposure to nuclear waste in St. Louis County going back to World War II.
This is an injustice. This is this body turning its back on these good, proud Americans.
His ire is directed at his fellow Republicans in the House who cut the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act from the Defense Department spending bill. Wartime uranium production led to the contamination of Coldwater Creek. Radiation exposure is blamed for generations of severe health issues, including various cancers. Hawley says he will now oppose the defense authorization bill and try to block final passage. He has an ally in Democrat Dick Durbin of neighboring Illinois with roots in East St. Louis, who says House Republicans are turning their backs on communities here. What does it tell us, John, when Hawley and Durbin are on the same team?
Well, Josh has been on this issue aggressively. It's probably his hallmark legislative achievement in this term. And I think he's going to, you know, there's a chance that when this thing goes to conference committee, he's going to be able to get those appropriations put back into the bill. And I'm glad to see him standing up here.
Ditto. I mean, who could be against what he's up to? He's doing the right thing. The most telling thing that happened in that clip is he's taking on Republicans directly. This is on the heels of him out walking a picket line. Is Josh Hawley trying to reinvent himself as a Democrat? I don't know. He seems to have the backbone of a jellyfish, so I don't necessarily want him on my side, but he's clearly playing politics. Hopefully people can see through this.
Well, he's a populist guy. I mean, he's cut out of the cloth of, he's a new Republican, and very much is in the populist mold, and this is very consistent with that ideology.
Our quote of the week is from the president of Harvard University. She was among those from elite schools called to testify before a House Education Committee about the alarming rise of Jewish hate and anti-Semitism on campus in the wake of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel and then Israel's military response in Gaza. She was repeatedly asked if students calling for the death of Jews was against Harvard's code of conduct. Her repeated answer is the quote, "We embrace a commitment to free expression and give a wide berth to free expression, even of views that are objectionable, offensive, hateful," said Harvard President Claudine Gay. Now, after intense backlash and calls for her resignation, she apologized, saying such calls for violence or genocide have no place at Harvard. The circumstances were nearly identical for the president of the University of Pennsylvania, Liz McGill, who just resigned yesterday with donors to that university threatening to hold back more than $100 million. Michael, the point's been made by members of Congress that if such speech were directed at African Americans or the trans community, there would be heck to pay.
Yeah, they're right.
Why is this allowed when Jews are the target?
It shouldn't be allowed. And look, I think it's going to cost them their job. Remember what Deep Throat said, follow the money. And unfortunately, since the backbone inside the administration at these universities aren't going to do the right thing, the donors are going to apply pressure that are going to ultimately call this the ousting, the rightful ousting of these folks. The other issue here, though, is Republicans are, the anti-cancel culture group really wants to do a lot of cancel culture where we can have public hearings in Congress on this kind of stuff. Their presidential candidate wants to suspend the Constitution and be a dictator. We're not having hearings over that. Let's be consistent.
Is there an equivalence there with what he's talking about?
And the real problem here with these college campuses is that they actually believe this stuff. They actually are anti-Semitic, and it's not just the students, it's the professors, it's the staff, it's the leadership. There is a real sickness taking place in higher education in this country, and it's finally getting exposed. So for that, I'm grateful.
Are they really anti-Semitic? Because my impression watching this was they're just being grilled by Republicans and they're thinking, we can't agree with these people. You know what I mean?
I think they're trying to walk a tightrope in this woke world that they created, by the way, when ultimately, when you're dealing with children, sometimes you got to get children back in line, and they're standing by these woke principles rather than doing what's right and, practicing common sense.
That is one of the best things that ever come out of his mouth. Right
no,
there.
Lord. I retract it.
Yeah. Mark the tape, as they say.
Mark the tape.
Up next, President Biden takes the case for tens of billions more in military aid for Ukraine to the American people. And after offering a so-called sweetheart deal to the president's son Hunter, the same prosecutor is now throwing the book at him.